Coming up on this tutorial, we discuss the game screen that is responsible for allowing us to select a level. It accepts keyboard input and gets information from the XML map loader file and the map class to present the information to us. And whenever we select a map, pressing enter will allow us to play that map. So, enjoy the tutorial. Hey, Nathan here, and welcome back to another tower defense game tutorial. It's been a while since I released a tutorial. If you've been keeping up with my YouTube channel, my website was hacked and I had to stop all development and tutorials until I got that up and running, which I recently did, and now I'm back to doing tutorials. So, we're going to pick up where we left off, and this is the tower defense game tutorial where we will cover the biggest game screen for this tutorial, which is the level selection screen. We did not add this to the game engine because we wanted to leave it up to the whoever's developing the game portion. They can have a level selection screen that's very different from somebody else. So we didn't leave this up to the engine. It's going to be up to the game to do this. Alright, before we begin, let's add a few using statements at the top. So after using screen system library, let's add using Microsoft.xna.framework semicolon. So we add the main framework. Now let's add using tower defense engine. And then using Microsoft.xna.framework.graphics. So we're going to add those using statements, and then we'll use some classes inside there to accomplish our goals. Okay, so now let's add a few fields before the accepts input property. We need to use the map loader, and that's from the engine, and I'm just going to call this ML, and then a texture 2D for the background and the pixel. We're going to programmatically create a single pixel that we will use for our borders and stuff. Alright, now we need to have a few map objects here. So the selected map, previous map, and next map. Now we're going to have a center point and a couple of rectangles. For our border, left, selected, right, description. So the way that level selection screen will work, and you saw this at the very beginning of the tutorial, we will have a selected map at the center of the screen. So that's this rectangle here. We will have a map to the left and a map to the right. That's what these are for. And then the description below the thumbnails. And then the center, it's just going to be the point, which is the center of the screen resolution, which will be hard-coded, but you can change that for dynamic resolution later if you want. Okay, so now we're going to have some background opacity float value. And that will control, obviously, the opacity of our background texture. And that is actually referencing the background of the blocks, not the actual background image. Okay, so once those are made, we have a few more fields left to make. Mostly the sprite font and text. So let's make a few SpriteFont objects. A main SpriteFont level info small, level info large. So level information small and level information large are going to be two different sprite fonts, and then the main sprite font for, you know, the number of maps and where it says select a map and all that other information that is not directly tied into the level information. Alright, text will be select text and number of levels text. So select text will be select your map or select a map, and then number of levels text will be bracket to end bracket, something like that. Int index, the current map you have selected will have an integer index representation. Okay, so the level selection screen is going to allow us to, you know, select a level. So we're going to have it support input. So under the accepts input property, set the get to return true. Okay. So now let's go ahead and work on the initializedScreen method here. And what we're going to do is set up our information and all of our properties and all that stuff we created above. Now, most of this stuff will be a hard-coded value, so we can change for dynamic resolution. So you can change that if you want for dynamic resolution. I'm going to keep it static to keep it simple. Alright, so we're going to set the center point is equal to a new point. And our current resolution is 1280. And we're going to get the center point and 720. And the center point of that. So 1280 by 720 is our current resolution. We're getting the center point of that resolution and storing it in the center point. Alright, border. Alright, so the border, we're going to go from the center point's X. We're going to subtract 608. And I got these values by designing it in Photoshop. And then I was able to get these values of 608 and all the others as well. So I created a background for the block, the section for where we are selecting the items, the map you want to use, and that is centered horizontally. So we horizontally center the little block area for where we are selecting the levels, and we leave some sort of gap on the far left and the far right sides. So we're just using the center point and going back just far enough to leave a big enough gap for our block area. So that's what we are doing here. We're setting the center.x minus 608, comma, center.y minus 300, comma, we're going to make our block 1216 pixels wide by 580 pixels tall. Alright, so that's our border. Okay, so we're worrying about the rectangles here, our maps rectangles. So our selected map is going to be at the very center of our... So we want to center the selected map thumbnail horizontally in our box area and vertically in our box area. Now, centered horizontally can be easy. However, if you want to change your box area to be something a little bit different, than a directly centered box, you might want to go with the advanced technique of using the border, border properties to achieve this result. Otherwise, we can use the center.x here. Since it's centered horizontally, we can use the center here. However, if we wanted to make it an abnormal border size, we will not be able to use the center point. So let's go ahead and use the border properties to achieve this result. Alright, so we're going to use border.x plus border.width divided by 2. So we're just getting to the center point of our border in the horizontal direction. Now we need to subtract that by 480. We are assuming a 480 thumbnail size divided by 2. So we're just subtracting half of the thumbnail size. So that gets a selected thumbnail horizontally centered. Now we need to do the same thing vertically. Border.y plus border.height divided by 2 minus 270 divided by 2. The width is going to be 480. The height is going to be 270. So that is going to center it vertically and horizontally in our box area. Now, like I said, we know for a fact that this border is horizontally centered. Vertically, it's not centered, but horizontally it is. So we can use the center point for our horizontal position here. However, if you ever want to change the border to a less centered box, we can now no longer use the center point. So we're just keeping this for in case you do want to change that later on. Smaller thumbnails are a size of 240 by 135. So that will be our left thumbnail and our right thumbnail. So the left thumbnail is a new rectangle. Again, we're going to use the border center. So in fact, I'm going to just copy and paste this here. So I'm going to copy where it says border x plus border.width divided by 2. I'm going to copy that and paste that below. Minus selected.width divided by 2. So I'm getting the center point horizontally. I'm subtracting half of the selected width. You know, the width is the thumbnail size, so I'm selecting half that. And then I'm going to push push with the minus 20 pixels. So it gives us a 20 pixel gap between the thumbnails. And then we're going to subtract the thumbnail size. Alright, now let's do the same thing for the y-axis. Border.y plus border.height divided by 2. 2 closing parentheses minus 135 divided by 2. the height of our small thumbnail divided by 2, and we have a comma, 240, comma, 135. Alright, now we need to do the same thing for the right thumbnail. So let's copy that entire thing and paste it below. Change left to right. Okay, so now we need to change a few more things. So we get the border X plus border width divided by 2, and we're going to add the selected width divided by 2. We're going to add the 20. And then that's it. Okay, and then we're going to vertically center it the same way, so we leave that alone. Okay, the background opacity for our little block area, so background opacity is equal to 0.5f. We're going to start with index 0. Okay, and now the screen systems have input mappings, so we're going to do input map.newAction select left. Microsoft.xna.framework.input.keys.left. I'm going to use the left arrow key for the select left action. Input map.newAction select right. I'm going to use Microsoft.xna.framework.input.keys.right for the select right action. Input map.newAction select map. I am going to use Microsoft.xna.framework.input.keys.enter for the confirmation key press. Input map.newAction back. I'm going to use Microsoft.xna.framework.input.keys.escape. So escape is going to be the back action. Now the screen system has a whole bunch of events. It's an event-driven system, so I'm going to use the removing event. And it's going to be a new event handler, LevelSelectScreen _ removing. Press tab, and then it automatically creates the method for that. Okay. As I said, this is the most complicated class we'll ever have to do for this game because it's totally up to us to do all the logic for it. The game engine is not doing anything but giving us the map loader. So that's why it's taking a long time to do this class. Okay, after the initializedScreen method, let's public override the load content method. And since this is the very first class, since this is the very first game screen in the game screen chain, we do not need base.loadContent. Alright, so to load the content, we're going to use Maine. Maine is our sprite font. So Maine is equal to screen system .content.load. It's a sprite font, and we're going to use fonts go to the fonts folder, and we call it menu. We are using a menu font for the basic information to display to the user. Level info small is equal to screen system dot content dot load SpriteFont. It's going to the fonts folder, level select small. And we will create these fonts after we get finished with the coding. Level info large is going to be screen system.content.load SpriteFont. Go to the fonts folder and it's level select large. Alright, select text is equal to new text. Select a map with the Maine sprite font. Select text.position is going to be a new vector2. It's going to be the border.x, border.y, minus the select text dot dimensions dot y. So before we continue, let's discuss what this is doing, and I'll demonstrate what else other things are doing. So the dark gray box that's in the map area that we have here, that is the border area. Now what we are doing with the select text is we're pushing it above the border area where it says select a map. And that's using the menu font. As you see, we have a very large font here, so that's using the same font as our menu. Okay, so that is the select text. Map loader is equal to screen system dot content dot load, and it's a map loader. Let's go to the maps folder. Maps folder. The maps map loader. Alright, so the map loader is going to go to the maps folder and then the map loader file. Number of levels text is equal to new text. We're going to use string.format here to give us a nice formatting effect. So we're going to use bracket, opening curly bracket, 0, closing curly bracket, space, maps, end normal bracket, end the double quote, comma, ml.maps.count, closing parentheses, comma, main. So, string.format, it gives whatever we provide in a curly bracket number, closing curly bracket. So, whatever we provide there, we can pass in arguments to the format method. In this case, we are going to replace the text I've highlighted with the maps.count. So we're just going to plop that into where it says bracket 0 bracket. And then we're going to wrap the whole thing around square brackets. You know, normal brackets. Not the curly brackets. And it's using the Maine sprite font. Alright, number of levels dot text, and we need to modify the position of that. It's equal to new vector 2 border dot x plus select text dot dimensions dot x plus give it some nice spacing before we start our levels. So 10, if you want to increase the spacing, just increase that 10 amount. So that's going to push the number of levels string past the select a map string plus 10 additional pixels for giving us a gap between the two strings. And then the y will be the same thing, border.y minus number of levels text dot dimensions dot y. So y is the same thing we did with the selected text position. It's just going to take the border.y minus the text object dot dimensions dot y. Alright, so that gives us the nice text, and then the previous map is going to be null. Since we start at map 0, there is no map at index -1. Selected map is going to be map loader ml.maps subindex. Next map is equal to open parentheses index plus 1 close parentheses less than ml.maps.count space question mark ml.maps with, and we're gonna get the index plus 1 space colon null. Okay, so if you're not sure about the question mark here, check out my XNA C# quick tips for question mark colon, the conditional operator. What this is saying is if this is true, we're going to perform this. If this is false, we're going to perform this. So the next map will be index plus 1 if it is within the range we have set. Otherwise, it will be null. We're using singleton for most of our classes here, so just call maploader.singleton is equal to ml. That way we don't need to reload the map loader from disk. It's already in memory. Alright, the main background image is going to equal screen system dot content dot load. It's going to be a texture 2D. Look in the textures folder. Menu. Main menu background. So it's a main menu background, and let me just switch this here. Okay, in the ml is equal to screen system dot content dot load, just reverse the slash in the string. That slash was the wrong way. Alright, so now we're going to programmatically create a single pixel. So pixel is equal to new texture 2D. We're going to use the screen system dot graphic device, and it's going to be a 1 by 1 pixel. Single pixel. We need to generate a color array. It's going to be a new color array. So we have opening bracket color dot black, closing bracket semicolon. Okay, so once we have a color array with our color in it that we want, we just need to set that data in the texture 2D. So call pixel.setData color, opening parentheses, C array. Alright, so that's how we programmatically set a single pixel in the code, and we set it to the color black. Okay, now let's fill in this update screen method here. And we're going to use the input map for this. If input map.newActionPress select left. You can name your actions whatever you want, but you need to keep the same name as what you named it up here. Okay, so the select left is what's going to happen if we press the left arrow key, and that's going to advance our level selection to the previous map. Now, if the previous map is null, we just don't do anything because we are already at the far left map. So if previous map is not null, that means we can go ahead and advance the level selection. So next map is equal to selected map. Selected map is equal to previous map. Index minus minus. Previous map is equal to opening parentheses, index minus 1, closing parentheses, greater than or equal to 0, question mark, ml.maps, bracket index minus 1, end bracket, colon, null. Alright, so the previous map will be set to the index minus 1 if it's above or equal to 0. Otherwise, it will become null, and then we cannot press left anymore, so this code will not execute because previous map will be null. Now, if you want to change this, where if you press left, if you're at the very first map and you press left again, and then it will go to the far right map, you can do that, but I did not implement that in my game. Alright, we have two if statements. After the outer if statement, press enter, else if input map dot new action press, opening parentheses, select right. So this is what will happen if we press the right arrow key, or whatever you set that as. In this if block, if, let's add another if for next map does not equal to null. And this is going to operate the same way as the one above, but it's going to use the next map instead of the previous map. So in this inside if block, let's set the previous map is equal to selected map. Let's set the selected map is equal to next map. Index plus plus. Next map is equal to, opening parentheses, index plus 1, closing parentheses, less than ml.maps.count. Question mark. ml.maps index plus 1 colon null. So this is doing the opposite of what we did above. Since we're using the right arrow key, we need to make sure it's within the range of our maps.count. Okay. After the outer else if block, press enter. Type in another else if, opening parentheses, input map dot new action press, open parentheses, select map, close parentheses twice, I should say, open and closing curly brackets, if selected map does not equal null, we're going to freeze the screen. We're going to select map. We're going to reset it. We're going to reset the map. And screen system dot add screen new play screen this comma selected map. And we did not fill in that constructor yet, so it will be giving you an error. So just comment that out. Okay. Outside of the else if block, press enter. Else if input map dot new action press, open parentheses, quote back, end quote, end parentheses twice, opening closing curly brackets. We're going to exit the screen. And we're going to set screen system dot add screen new main menu screen. All right. So removing, we're not going to set anything in there just yet. Logic to perform when the menu screen is getting ready to remove from the screen system. So maybe you want to have some animation or whatever. You can add that to this method here. All right, just 2 more methods left. We need to implement this DrawScreen method. So delete the throw new implemented exception, and then let's start filling in the method. Sprite batch is equal to screen system.spriteBatch. SpriteBatch dot draw We're going to draw the background first. Background, comma, vector2.0. We're going to draw it at 0, 0 with a color.white. SpriteBatch dot DrawString, open parentheses. We're going to use the main sprite font. Select text dot value, comma, select text dot position, comma, color dot white. SpriteBatch dot DrawString, open parentheses, main, comma, number of levels text dot value, comma, number of levels text dot position, comma, color dot orange. That bracket 2 bracket, for example, is going to be an orange. Sprite batch dot draw the single pixel at our border rectangle, color dot white times our background opacity. Okay, so before we continue on this method, let's create another one. Private void DrawMap information, open parentheses, we're going to pass it the sprite batch, SB, the map M, rectangle R, color C, SpriteFont SF. So this is what we're going to use to draw the map information. If M does not equal to null, we're going to sb.draw string SpriteFont SF, comma, m.name, we're going to output the name of the map, comma, new vector2, open parentheses, rectangle.x, comma, rectangle.y, minus sf.measure_string m.name .y, .y, close parentheses, comma, c, close parentheses, semicolon, sb.draw m.thumbnail, comma, r, comma, c, vector2 position is equal to new vector2, open parentheses, r.x, comma, r.bottom. Now what this means here is that our vector2 position will be positioned below our thumbnail. That's what the r.bottom is for. Okay, sb.DrawString, open parentheses, sf, comma, m.towers info, comma, position, comma, c. Position.y plus equals sf.measure_string m.towers info .y. So we're just pushing the position y down as we output what we need to. sb.DrawString sf, comma, m.waves info, comma, position, comma, c. Alright, now we need to push the position.y down again because we just output the wave information. Plus equals sf.measure_string m.waves information, wavesinfo.y. sb.DrawString sf, comma, m difficulty info, comma, position, comma, c. And that is the last thing we output. Okay, so let's go back to the DrawScreen method and then let's make a new line and we're going to start displaying our maps. So draw map information, sprite batch, comma, previous map, comma, left, we're using the left map rectangle here, comma, color.white, comma, level info small. Draw map information, sprite batch, selected map, selected rectangle, color.white, level info large. Draw map information, sprite batch, next map, right rectangle, color.white, level info small again. Alright, so we're drawing the map information for the 3 maps that will be displayed on the level selection screen. The left map, center map, and right map. Okay, so the left map is displaying its forest title, the thumbnail, Available Towers 1, Waves 2, Difficulty 1. And that's in a small font. Versus the selected map, which is the map in the center, and that's Vector, Available Towers 2, Waves 8, Difficulty 2. And that's in a large font. And then the right map is doing the same thing. So that's what we're doing here. We're drawing the map information. We're pulling that in from the map class. And then we're just doing it in a dedicated method here. So we don't need to repeat this process 3 times. Now, depending on how you want the level selection screen to work, and I encourage you to change it around and see if you can make it look differently, you might want to draw the next map before the selected map. Okay, so the map information is done. Now let's do sprite font or sprite batch. Sprite batch.draw pixel, single pixel, description, color.white times background opacity. And the description is actually a rectangle I forgot to write down. So in the initialized screen, we have another rectangle to create, and that's called description. And description is equal to new rectangle, open parentheses, border.x, comma, border.bottom, plus 10, comma, border.width, comma, 50. So it's going to be 10 pixel gap between the bottom of our center of our level selection box, and then it's only going to be 50 pixels tall. Okay, so let's go back to the draw screen, and at the very end, let's create another new line. And we're going to draw the string sprite batch.DrawString level info large selected map description, comma, new vector2 open parentheses description.x plus, we're going to push it left, or push it to the right by 10 pixels, comma, description.y plus description.height divided by 2, closing parentheses, minus, open parentheses, level info large. And I'm actually going to move that to a new line here. Level info large dot measure string, open parentheses, selected map dot description, closing parentheses, dot y, divided by 2, closing parentheses, comma, color dot white. Alright, so let's look at this vector 2 here. So we're setting up a new vector 2, and we're going to set it up as description.x plus 10. So we're going to push it 10 pixels to the right. Now the y is a little bit different. We're going to center it vertically in the box, in our description box. So we get description.y, and then we plus the center of the height, subtract half the height of our text. And that will vertically center that in the description box. Okay, and that is it for this class. You can save it and then close it. Now, since we don't have any of the XMLs made yet, we cannot get the map information. And without that, we can't really demonstrate the level selection screen. So, this is the end result that you just coded. We just can't see it yet. But this is the final game, and this is the level selection screen code that we just created. So we have the select a map at the top, and then the 3 maps. That was our our select a map, select text, and then the actual map is a number of level text. So that's at the very top. That's outside of the map selection box, which we refer to as a border around the selection map. And then below that is the description of the map. Remember, it's 10 pixels pushed to the right, so it's not on the far left side of the box. It's pushed 10 pixels to the right and centered vertically in this box. Each item, we press left. We cannot press left anymore because the previous map is null. So we cannot do anything once we press left when it's the far left map. So as you see, I'm pressing left, nothing's happening. I go to the far right, now I'm keep on pressing right, nothing's happening. The left and the right have lower, smaller fonts for the title and description. The center has much larger font. That's why we use the level info small and level info large. And color.white, they're white. And then the thumbnails, which we get from the maps, m.thumbnail right here. So we're drawing the thumbnail after we draw the name. Alright, this was a very long tutorial, and it was actually longer tutorial than I was hoping to. I haven't done a tutorial in about 5 months, so I was probably a little bit rusty doing these. And then on top of that, it was about a 50-minute tutorial. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and we'll see you next time. All the other classes are pretty simple. You just, the engine itself takes care of most of the other stuff. We just left the level selection up to the game implementation in case, somebody wants to do it a vertical selection or something like that. Alright, so we're still going for each tutorial from the top to the bottom. So the next tutorial will be the main menu screen. That should be a pretty short tutorial. And then we'll go from there. So I hope to see you next time. Thanks for watching.